Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we really get into complex topics and pull out the key insights from the sources you give us. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a really, well, quite a radical vision for Kenya's future. It's proposing a profound shift, not just, small reforms. Our mission is to explore this call for change coming out of Kenya, focusing on an organization called the Kenya Wantam Notam Movement, KWM for short. We're working from this fascinating article, Why Patrick Lumumba Should Lead Kenya's National Caretaker Team and End the Cycle of Political Failure. It was published by Village Action Online, July 13th, 2025. It's a very specific viewpoint and, well, deeply passionate.
Absolutely. And the source gives a, let's say, very clear and emphatic take on Kenya's current political situation. It's arguing for a major departure. So our goal here is to unpack the KWM's view of the problems, what they're proposing as solutions, and importantly, what this national caretaker team idea actually involves based on this article. It's really a chance to look closely at one particular approach to tackling some long-standing national challenges.
Okay, let's get into it then. The article kicks off by painting this picture of Kenya sort of stuck in what it calls an endless cycle of elections, promising a lot, but, according to KWM, delivering very little for the average person. What specific issues does KWM keep coming back to? The ones that persist election after election.
Well, what's striking is how consistent the critique is. It's relentless, really. The source states that after every single election, the country still struggles with these deep-rooted problems, things like, underfunded hospitals, poorly equipped schools, and a crumbling economy. It's not just isolated incidents. The article points to a systemic issue. Politicians who, it claims, take advantage of the public's trust for personal gain, basically enriching themselves using public money. And that really sets the foundation for their whole argument. The system itself is broken. That's why this cycle just continues.
That is a stark assessment. So what's the impact of this perceived cycle, this sense of betrayal on ordinary Kenyans? The source really hits hard on disillusionment, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It emphasizes a deep, widespread disillusionment. The argument is that the political elite has effectively drained the country's resources for decades. The core idea they're putting forward is that the current way of doing things, the electoral cycle, it just isn't bringing tangible results for the people. Instead, you see the same critical problems persisting. It leads to this feeling, quite strong in the source, that officials are, frankly, more focused on their own gain than on the country's progress. There's this real sense that public trust has been broken again and again over a long time.
Okay, so given that pretty bleak diagnosis,
Yeah.
KWM comes forward with this, radical solution, a national caretaker team, and led by Patrick Lumumba. Why him, and what's the basic idea behind this team structure?
Right. The choice of Lumumba is very deliberate in the source material. He's positioned as a leader of integrity and vision, and that's presented in direct contrast to what the article calls career politicians entrenched in a system of corruption and inefficiency. It really highlights his background, a well-known lawyer, an advocate for justice. It suggests he's someone not afraid to stand up for what is right. And critically, the article stresses he's not beholden to any political party or special interest group. His only loyalty, it says, is to the people of Kenya. This idea of independence, of being principled, seems absolutely key to their proposal for this kind of leadership role.
And the team itself, it sounds like it's more than just a new face at the top. It's about a whole different structure, right?
Yeah.
How does the source describe who would be on this team? How are they different?
Precisely. Yeah, the national caretaker team concept is absolutely central. The source is explicit. This team would be composed of development experts, not politicians. Experts who, quote, understand the challenges Kenya faces and are equipped to address them. It's a really strong call for, competence and expertise over politics. The article pulls no punches, saying, we don't need more political puppets. We need people who will roll up their sleeves and get to work. So it's a major shift. They're advocating for practical problem solvers instead of, politicians as usual.
Okay, so you get this team of experts in place. What's their immediate focus? What are the top priorities they tackle first?
The source is very, very clear on this. The absolute focus would be on education, healthcare, and the economy. The article claims these vital sectors have been neglected while politicians have squandered public resources. It makes a strong case that it's simply time to put development first. The implication is these aren't just important areas, they're the foundation, the bedrock of progress that affects everyone's daily life and future. So fixing these, rather than getting caught up in what KWM sees as unproductive political games, is paramount to their vision.
Now, one of the most striking proposals, and maybe the boldest, tackles corruption head-on. KWM talks about Restoring stolen wealth to the people. That sounds huge. How do they actually see that happening, according to this article?
Yeah, it definitely raises big questions about accountability, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Economic justice. The source identifies rampant theft of public funds by politicians as a massive problem, a crippling one. It states flat out that billions of shillings have been siphoned off. Under Lumumba, the article suggests, this caretaker team would focus on reclaiming the stolen wealth. And then, crucially, redirecting it where it's needed most, to build schools, fund hospitals, repair roads, and improve social services. Now, the source doesn't go into the detailed legal nuts and bolts of how you do that on such a scale, but just proposing it signals this intent for really an unprecedented level of financial accountability. It suggests a pretty forceful approach to getting assets back and using them for the public good.
And they don't just stop at reclaiming funds. The article gets quite specific, quite assertive about how politicians should pay the price.
Yes, the language gets very forceful there, uncompromising. The article proposes actually freezing their salaries and, quote, redirect the funds they've been pocketing into the public coffers. There's this rhetorical question that really jumps out. Why should they continue to earn lavish salaries while the rest of the population struggles? It's a really strong call for immediate, visible financial accountability, both to deter future corruption and to get funds back directly from those identified as responsible. It's presented as a vital step, not just for recovery, but to break that cycle of personal enrichment using public money.
Right. And for anyone listening who's finding this interesting, who wants to know more about the Kenya Quantum Data movement and this vision, the source actually invites people to get involved.
It does, yeah. There's a clear call to action right in the article. It says to visit www.quantumnotum.com and create your account. Start sharing your ideas that can help change your village, city, and nation. So it points towards an online platform, a space for participation, for sharing ideas, trying to gather that collective input from people themselves, empowering individuals, really.
Okay, so KWM isn't just proposing a new path forward. They're also critiquing existing institutions. Specifically, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, the IEBC. What's their perspective on its role?
Well, the source is pretty direct about the IEBC, and frankly, quite dismissive about its ability to fix Kenya's core problems. It argues flatly that the IEBC is not the solution, even though it runs the elections. The article points out again that the fundamental issues, underfunded hospitals, overcrowded schools, politicians getting richer, they all persist, which leads them to conclude, don't fall for the illusion of change. The IEBC cannot save us. So this positions the KWM's own proposal, the caretaker team, as the real solution, something that actually breaks the cycle, which they argue elections alone don't do. It suggests the problem runs deeper than just how elections are managed. It's the system itself, in their view.
Right, that makes sense within their framework. So this is where it gets really interesting, I think. After outlining the problems and this quite unconventional solution, the article shifts gears. It becomes this powerful call for immediate change, laying out a vision for Kenya's potential. What's the urgency they're conveying, and what's the ultimate goal here?
Yeah, the tone definitely shifts. It presents Kenya as being at a crossroads. It emphasizes quite starkly that the next few years will determine whether this country continues to slide backward or rises to fulfill its potential.
Right.
It states the people are, simply put, tired of unfulfilled promises, and importantly, ready for change. There's a real sense of urgency there. Like, now is the moment. Continuing down the current path, in their view, just leads to further decline. Patience has run out.
And the caretaker team is positioned as the catalyst, the thing that sparks this transformation.
Exactly. The article asserts quite confidently that this team would dismantle the corrupt political system and rebuild Kenya from the ground up. And the focus, unequivocally on action, not words. Their stated goal, it says, is not to enrich themselves, but to fix the systems that are broken. And crucially, ensure that the resources of this country are used for the benefit of the people. It highlights this very results-driven approach. Governance redefined as practical solutions, transparent use of resources for everyone, not, politics and self-interest. It's a fundamental shift in purpose.
It really does sound like a complete reimagining of how governance should work from the bottom up.
It's presented as exactly that, a new kind of leadership, one that fundamentally prioritizes development over politics, and the well-being of the people over the enrichment of the few. The article keeps hammering this point. Kenya has immense potential, but it's been squandered by corruption and self-serving leaders. Therefore, this kind of fundamental change is needed to put the people first, not the politicians. It paints this picture of a nation finally unlocking its potential by focusing entirely on public good and development.
And they even have that catchy slogan, according to the source. The Wantum slogan, Kenya's future starts with you.
Which definitely speaks to individual action, but it also connects to that much more direct message at the start of the article, doesn't it? It does, yes. That slogan is powerful, engaging people directly, and it ties straight back to that statement right at the top. Notice to current all future presidents, cabinet, parliament, county leaders, skiza wekenia skiza ground, or be impeached, be kicked out by our votes even before manam ends. Now, skiza wekenia skiza ground, that's Swahili, it means listen to Kenyans, listen to the ground. A very clear call for leaders to pay attention to public opinion, to the reality people are living, and one term, that refers to the first term in office. So the message is deliver, listen, or face consequences quickly, even within that first term. Accountability through votes. So yeah, the slogan in that opening notice together, it's a direct challenge. It's about accountability driven by citizen engagement, by grassroots pressure. The power rests with the people is the message.
Wow. Okay, what a deep dive into the Kenya Wantum Notum movement. And they're really compelling, if radical, arguments for a different Kenyan future. We've looked at their critique of the political cycle, the proposal for this national caretaker team under Patrick Lumumba, the plan to reclaim stolen wealth, and this overarching vision for putting people first.
Yeah, this deep dive really throws a spotlight on a viewpoint that demands a fundamental rethink, a rethink of how a country is governed, how its resources are used. It really makes you consider, what are the alternatives when traditional systems are seen as failing? What's the potential of completely new leadership models? And it really highlights the power of a movement fueled by frustration and a demand for accountability.
It's such a potent reminder of how deeply connected a nation's political structures are to everyday life. The state of hospitals, schools, the economy. For KWM, these aren't abstract issues. They're direct results of perceived political failure.
And that leaves a big question for you, the listener, doesn't it? When a system is seen as broken, what does effective leadership and real accountability actually look like? Especially when it facing these huge systemic challenges. How far might people be willing to go for genuine change?
And as we mentioned, if you want to explore the Kenya Wantum Notum movement yourself, the article gives that direct link. You can visit www.wantumnotum.com and create your account. Start sharing your ideas that can help change your village, city, and nation. It's a clear invitation to get involved in the proposed transformation. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the Kenya Wantum Notum movement. We hope exploring this bold vision has given you some new insights, maybe a few aha moments. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into your sources.